Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hopefully you guys can see and hear me fine. My internet connection is a little shaky, so I don't know if the online audience will be able to. Okay, that's good. I see a thumbs up. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 8, right? Chapter 8, text 46 and 47. So I'll just do the Sanskrit translation myself. We don't have a lot of time today. So this is text 46. Shri Rajo Vacha Nanda Kyamakaro Brahman Shreya Evam Mahodayam Yashoda Cha Mahabhaga Papo Yasha Stanam Harihi. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Having heard of the great fortune of Mother Yashoda, Parikshit Maharaj inquired from Shukadev Goswami, O learned Brahmana, Mother Yashoda's breast milk was sucked by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What past auspicious activities did she and Nanda Maharaj perform to achieve such perfection and ecstatic love? Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.16, Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukriti no arjuna. Without sukriti or pious activities, no one can come to the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is approached by four kinds of pious men. Arto jigyasur artati jnani cha. But here we can see that Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda surpassed all of them. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj naturally inquired what kind of auspicious activities did they perform in their past lives by which they achieved such a stage of perfection. Of course, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda are accepted as the father and mother of Krishna. Yet, Mother Yashoda was more fortunate than Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's father, because Nanda Maharaj was sometimes separated from Krishna, whereas Yashoda, Krishna's mother, was not separated from Krishna at any moment. From Krishna's babyhood to his childhood, and from his childhood to his youth, Mother Yashoda was always in association with Krishna. Even when Krishna was grown up, he would go to Vrindavan and sit on the lap of Mother Yashoda. Therefore, there is no comparison to the fortune of Mother Yashoda and Parikshit Maharaj. Naturally, let me read that again. Therefore, there is no comparison to the fortune of Mother Yashoda, and Parikshit Maharaj naturally inquired, Yashoda cha Mahabhaga. Now, text 47, again, I'll do the Sanskrit by myself. Pitaro nanva vindetam Krishno darar bhakehitam gayantyadyapi kavayo yalloka samalapaham. Translation. So Maharaj Parikshit is continuing in his question. Although Krishna was so pleased with Vasudev and Devaki that he descended as their son, they could not enjoy Krishna's magnanimous childhood pastimes, which are so great that simply chanting about them vanquishes the contamination of the material world. Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, however, enjoyed these pastimes fully, and therefore their position is always better than that of Vasudev and Devaki. Purport. Oh, perfect. You got that. put on the screen also. Krishna actually took birth from the womb of Devaki, but just after his birth, he was transferred to the home of Mother Yashoda. Devaki could not even have Krishna suck her breast. Therefore, Parishad Maharaj was astonished. How had Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj become so fortunate that they enjoyed the complete childhood pastimes of Krishna, which are still glorified by saintly persons? What had they done in the past by which they were elevated to such an exalted position? Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I seek the blessings of all Vaishnavas, especially Adi Purusha Prabhu, that may our discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam be fruitful and uplifting and pleasing to the Guru Parampara. So we are now reading text 46 and 47. We're on chapter 8 of the 10th canto, and Krishna's childhood pastimes were being described in the beginning of this chapter. How Garga Muni sort of gives a prediction, like a horoscope. He does a horoscope reading, and then baby Krishna and Balaram are playing. They're crawling, and they're sort of winning the hearts of all the residents of Vrindavan, the elderly gopis. So now, after hearing all this, now Parishad Maharaj is hearing all of this. So he's heard the whole 9 cantos, and probably now we're on the 5th day of the life of the last 7 days of King Parishad. He has 7 days to live, and roughly around we're on the 5th day. Parishad Maharaj has now heard the previous 9 cantos, and throughout these past 9 cantos, you see so far, Parishad Maharaj has been a great listener. For the most part, as Shukadeva Goswami is speaking, and King Parishad is just listening. He listens for the most part, and every now and then he'll ask some questions. So not going to either extremes, just interrupting a lot or just remaining completely silent. He's really listening. And at this point in chapter 8, King Parikshit is now sort of having heard all the 9 cantos. In previous 9 cantos, Shukadeva Goswami goes into details of the 10 subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Atra Sarga Visargascha, Sthanam Poshanam, and so on. So all those topics are described, then they continue from 10th, 11th, and 12th cantos. And before 10th canto, we hear all the preliminary topics about creation, subsequent creation, and things like that. Now, finally, the reader of Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parishit, is hopefully ready to enter the 10th canto. And one of the purports, Prabhupada explains that the qualification to enter the 10th canto is one should be freed from lust. So Maharaj Parishit, obviously is such a qualified listener, and he's asking good questions throughout Bhagavatam. So at this point in the Bhagavatam, the hearing and recitation of Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parishit, he's hearing all these childhood pastimes. Now he's asking this great question. He's saying in text 46 that, text 46 that, you have it on the screen also. Having heard of the great fortune of Mother Yashoda, Parishit Maharaj inquired from Shukadeva Goswami that Mother Yashoda's breast milk was sucked by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What past auspicious activities did they perform to achieve this? And then in text 47, he says that, actually, let's go into the Sanskrit of text 46. So in text 46, he says that Nanda kim akurod Brahman Shreya evam mahodayam. So Nanda kim akurod. Shreya is like what auspicious activities. So he's saying Nanda kim Shreya akurod. If you take Shreya from the second line, and if you put it in the first line, it makes more, it flows more in a prose way. So Nanda kim Shreya akurod. He's asking Brahman is Sukadeva Goswami. He's asking Sukadeva Goswami, what auspicious activities did Nanda kim akurod? What auspicious activities did Nanda and Yashoda cha Mahabhaga? That what great fortune that have they performed? Papa yasya stanam hari. That the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared as their son, and Mother Yashoda is breastfeeding God himself. So he's asking this question in text 47. He says that, now he's analyzing a bit more. He's analyzing all these pastimes, and he says that actually Krishna's pastimes are so auspicious, as you see in text 47, that just by hearing and chanting about them, just when you hear and chant about these pastimes of Krishna, it vanquishes all material contaminations, whatever dirty things we have accumulated in our heart, all sins that we've committed in this life and previous lifetimes. Just by hearing and chanting these pastimes of Krishna, all of these contaminations are vanquished from the heart. So it's such a good fortune for us to even just be listening to these pastimes. Forget listening, even to hear the name of Krishna once for a soul is really like a good fortune. There's so many conditioned souls out there, so many human beings who haven't even heard the word Krishna. Then what to speak of all these species like of animal, beasts, and birds. So to be in human form is really auspicious, and in human form, even to hear the word Krishna is again like a great fortune. And among that subset, to hear these pastimes of Krishna, hear and chant these pastimes is so auspicious. So Maharaj Parikshit is recognizing all of this. Having heard these past 9 cantos, he's now at this point, he's understanding that these pastimes of Krishna are so auspicious, just by chanting about them vanquishes all contamination. Now he's saying if just by chanting and hearing it vanquishes, then what to speak of being born as a son of Devaki and Vasudeva. So he's thinking, what great fortune, that what have they done, Devaki and Vasudeva, that Krishna has been born as their son. But then that's not it. Now he's again further continuing his questioning. He's saying, yes, he was born as their son, but then all the good fortune went to Yashoda and Nanda, because they were the ones who actually enjoyed all the pastimes of Krishna, all the baby pastimes of Krishna. And to give examples, he's saying that Mother Yashoda breastfed Krishna, but Devaki didn't have that fortune. So he's a little confused. What's going on here? You know, to hear these pastimes is so auspicious, and then to give birth. But then Nanda and Yashoda, they sort of walk away with the prized trophy, so to speak. You know, they're walking away with the childhood pastimes of Krishna. So Maharaj Parikshit, it shows, is such a good listener. He's such a good listener. He's understood the importance of Krishna's pastimes, all of Krishna's exalted position of Krishna's pastimes. So now he's asking this question that it's so strange that Krishna was born to Vasudeva and Devaki, but then Nanda and Yashoda, they're enjoying all those childhood pastimes. So he's asking this question, that what great fortune, what auspicious activities have they performed? And you can extend this question to both, actually, Vasudeva and Devaki, as well as Yashoda and Nanda. What auspicious activities or what past activities have they performed to inherit, quote unquote, inherit such good fortune? And in the purport of text 46, Prabhupada is explaining, Chaturvida Bhajante Mam, there's 4 kinds of Sukritina. So one may wonder, okay, what past? Have they done some charity? Have they opened hospitals? What have they done in their past life? So Prabhupada quotes that verse, Chaturvida Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritino Arjuna. There's 4 kinds of Sukritina, he's telling Arjuna, Krishna is telling Arjuna. Artho Jigyasur Artharati. That to approach Krishna, you have to be really fortunate. Even to approach Krishna, even with improper motives, whatever improper motive you approach Krishna with, even that is glorious. So Krishna is saying there's Sukritina. And what are those 4 kinds of people? Artho Jigyasur Artharati. So now Parikshit Maharaj is thinking, okay, these are the 4 kinds of fortunate people. Artha is one who's distressed, who approaches Krishna or God out of distress. God, please help me. And Artho Jigyasur, one is inquisitive, who's approaching the supreme out of curiosity. Artho Jigyasur Artharti, one who's desiring material wealth, benefits, material possessions, and so on. Artho Jigyasur Artharti and Jnanircha. Jnani is like one who's just like a spiritually inclined, someone who's looking for spiritual knowledge. So that might not be the topmost motive. It's not pure bhakti, but still Krishna is saying there's Sukritina, they're really fortunate people to even approach Krishna. So the question arises then, Nanda and Yashoda, were they Artho? Artho, we discussed these 4 types. Artha is distress. Did they approach Krishna out of being distressed? Or Artho Jigyasur, were they just inquisitive? Is that how they approached Krishna and they got this good fortune? Or were they desiring material possessions? Or were they just like Gyanis? So Maharaj Parikshit is wondering, what is their good fortune? Because Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Yesham tvanta gatam papam jananam punya karmanam Tesham Dvandva Mohanir Mukta Bhajanti Mam Drida Vrataha. That only if one has acted piously in their previous lives, past life and this life, and all of their sinful contaminations have been eradicated, only such people can be really fixed up in Krishna Bhakti. In our ISKCON movement, you see some devotees who are little like shaky on and off, on and off. They come to the center and they're gone for like a few months. And again, they come in there. And other devotees, they're really fixed up. They're really steady. So then what is the reason for that? Krishna is saying that such people have acted piously in their previous life and this life. So the contaminations in their heart have sufficiently been cleansed. So that's why it allows them to be really steady. If your heart is not really fully cleansed, then we have contaminations, which really sort of agitates our mind. So we're just in this manorathena, we're in this mental chariot. So then Krishna is saying that such people who've acted pious, they're really drida vrata, they bhajante mam drida vrata, like really fixed, they're fixed up. So then, is that the situation with Yashoda and Nanda? Are they someone who's acted piously in their past life and past life and this current life, and that's why they're bhajantimam drida-vrata? So to dig in deeper into the nature of sukriti, there's different kinds of sukriti. Sukriti, by the way, it means pious credits. Just like we have credit history in any financial transaction, you accrue credit history. So like that, we in material world also we have like a credit history, so to speak. It's called sukriti. So there's different kinds of sukriti, or your credit score can be rated in different categories. So just like, for example, in chapter 5, Krishna says, right, the intricacies of action are really hard to understand. Therefore, one must understand what is vikarma, karma, and akarma. So vikarma is sinful activities. And the nature of sinful activities is it'll block you from approaching the Supreme. It just entangles you so much in material activities that it's so hard for us to perceive from that consciousness to grasp the Supreme. So that's vikarma. And then there's karma. And there's akarma. So there's, like we were discussing, there's different kinds of sukriti, right? So the three kinds of sukriti, the first kinds of sukriti is bhogonmukhi sukriti, meaning that sukriti you perform, which enables you to enjoy material life, material enjoyment, possessions, and so on. Bhogonmukhi sukriti. So you perform certain material activities in such a way that desiring like either a good spouse, big house, whatever that is, whatever your material enjoyment, propensity for material enjoyment is. That's bhogonmukhi sukriti. And then the second one is mokshonmukhi sukriti. That activity is pious. They're still pious. So that pious activities you perform with a desire of liberation or being free from suffering. So either desiring to merge with impersonal Brahman. In today's age, even that is really, you don't even find that. If you find someone who's desiring impersonal liberation, that's really rare. People are so caught up in sinful activities. So either desiring to merge with the impersonal Brahman or just being desired to be free from suffering, wanting to be liberated. So that's mokshonmukhi sukriti. And the third one is bhakti-unmukhi sukriti. So that activities you do in devotional service, which leads you to further approach the Supreme Lord, or that activity which is like a precursor to your devotional life. It could be agyata sukriti, unknowingly you've performed some devotional thing, or gyata sukriti, like you pass by the Harinam party, you just clap your hands, you just drop few cents, whatever. That's agyata sukriti. So all these bhogonmukhi sukriti, when you keep performing, that enables you to approach Krishna. So like we were discussing, vikarma, karma, and akarma, right? Vikarma is sinful activities. And in the category of karma or pious, karma is like one of the meanings of karma. Karma can have many meanings. One of the meanings of karma is pious activities. So in the category of karma, you can have bhogonmukhi sukriti and mokshonmukhi sukriti. And then akarma, which Krishna describes, is devotional service, which is bhakti-unmukhi sukriti. So again, Nanda Maharaj is still wondering, okay, so what is the story of, have they performed any of these types of sukriti? So to dig even deeper into this, let's go to the past life of both Vasudev, Devaki, and Nanda and Yashoda. Let's see what have they done. What is their story? What's their history like? what did they do in their past life? Like even in our ISKCON movement, you might see some devotee who's really in an exalted position, or like a temple person, sannyasi, guru, and you might wonder, okay, are they pure devotees? Have they, nitya siddhas? What have they done in their past life? Maybe they've finished up all of their anartha nivritti in their past life, and now in this life they're just trying to wrap it up. So you might wonder about such devotees. So what did Vasudeva and Devaki, they do? So Bhagavatam again gives more description of how Vasudeva and Devaki in their previous lives, they were Sutapa and Prishni, one of the early progenitors or one of the early inhabitants of this this earthly realm. And they performed, Bhagavatam describes that they were husband and wife, Sutapa and Prishni. And they're performing a lot of devotional activities, a lot of austerities for 12,000 celestial years. Anyway, to cut a long story short, Krishna then appeared, seeing their austerities for such a long time, and say, okay, what benediction you'd like. And since they were in the path of devotional service, they did not ask for liberation, because they wanted to be, their advent was for the purpose of facilitating Krishna's pastime. So they asked a son like Krishna. So Krishna fulfilled that desire. So Krishna appeared as their son. So actually Krishna gave them benediction to have him as their son for 3 lifetimes. So the first lifetime he was born as Prishni Garbha, as a son of Prishni and Sutapa. Prishni Garbha literally means that he who was born from the womb of Prishni. Prishni Garbha. Garbha is like womb. And in the second lifetime he was born from Aditi and Kashyapa, was Vamanadev. And then the third lifetime was, as we know, Vasudeva and Devaki. So as we know, Sutapa and Prishni, in one sense, they are like sadhana siddha. So there's different kind of perfected beings. Sadhana siddha, and there's nitya siddha. And of course, there's like nectar devotion describes different categories. There's like, I forget how they categorize it. There's like nitya siddha and samprapya siddha. Samprapya siddha is like you obtain devotional service, and in samprapya siddha, there's sadhana siddha and kripa siddha. So not to go into details, but sadhana siddha is those perfected beings who've attained perfection by their sadhana. So that is the story of Vasudeva and Devaki. They're like sadhana siddha, who by their previous devotional activities, they got such good fortune. And what about Yashoda and Nanda? So their story is really complex. We won't go into detail. Their past lives has been described in many scriptures like Krishna Sandarbha, Gopal Champu, and Garga Samhita, and many other books. They describe Yashoda and Nanda's past life. So in their past, actually it's explained that Nanda and Yashoda's partial expansion were Drona and Dhara. They descended into the material world, and then they took birth in the heavenly planetary system. And there again, as most of these pastimes go, they performed a lot of austerities. And Lord Brahma, pleased by the austerity, again asked them to have a benediction. And they said, we would like to have the Supreme as our son. And Brahma granted that benediction. So they asked, from what I remember, they asked for the Supreme to be born, because Drona and Dhara were partial expansions of Yashoda and Nanda. So when the time was right for Krishna's appearance, Krishna appeared, whole Vrindavan Dham, all of the associates of Krishna appeared, including Nanda and Yashoda. So when they appeared, it said that Drona and Dhara, they merged into the forms of Nanda and Yashoda. So Drona and Dhara were like partial expansions of Nanda and Yashoda. So it is said that Nanda and Yashoda are Nitya Siddhas. They're not, so the reason we went into detail about the Sukriti, Sukritina, the 4 kinds of pious people. So that's not the story of Nanda and Yashoda. They're not such people who became the parents of God by some adjustment or material activities. That's not a position you can obtain. That's always, Krishna's parents are always Nanda and Yashoda. So, but you can still perform devotional activities with the desire to have Krishna as your son. So that is the difference between Nanda, Yashoda, and Vasudeva and Devaki. If you see, it's so interesting that why did Krishna take birth from Vasudeva and Devaki? That's such a good fortune. but then give all the pastimes to Nanda and Yashoda. Because Krishna's pastimes of childhood, that's eternally being enjoyed by Nanda and Yashoda. Like we were discussing, that position is not something you can obtain. You can at the most perform austerities, and by that Krishna will appear as your son. That's the most extent which you can be Krishna's parents. Is out of his magnanimity, Krishna will give you that good fortune. That is only if you're fortunate enough to do all those krita punya punja, your lifetimes and lifetimes of pious devotional activities. So then you'll get this good fortune. If not, it's not some position that you can simply just jump onto prematurely. So the difference between Devaki and Yashoda, that's the difference. Devaki is like Prabhupada talks about how Devaki is like a sadhana siddha, and Yashoda is nitya siddha. And if you see now, what's interesting is another aspect, the difference between Devaki's devotion to Krishna and Yashoda's devotion that wakes everybody up. The difference between Devaki's devotion to Krishna and Yashoda's devotion to Krishna is actually let's take a step back. You see, there's three prominent women in Bhakti, three prominent women who played the role of Vatsalya Rasa. There's Kunti, there's Devaki, and there's Yashoda. And their flavors of Bhakti or Rasa differs. All three of them, there's like a different rasa they have. The Kunti approaches Krishna purely out of awe and reverence. She composes a beautiful prayer, Nama Pankaja Nabhaya, Nama Pankaja Maline. She's offering these respectful prayers to Krishna. So Kunti's devotion is purely in awe and reverence, whereas Devaki's devotion is mixed with awe and reverence and a bit of pure madhurya, like a sweet, intimate bhakti, devotional, like intimacy. I use the word madhurya in the sense of sweetness, not madhurya rasa, but madhurya meaning sweet, the sweet aspect of devotional service. Whereas Yashoda's devotion is purely it's free from any kind of awe and reverence. It's like pure bhakti. It's not any kind of karma mishra bhakti, any mishra bhakti. So that is the difference between Yashoda and Devaki. Devaki's love for Krishna is still mixed with awe and reverence. And in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, the highest form of bhakti is this pure devotion for Krishna, which is free, anya bilasi sasinam jnana karmadi anavatam, which is free from any other ulterior motive, any tendencies for speculation or any disposition for karma or awe and reverence. So that is the difference between Devaki's love for Krishna and Yashoda's love for Krishna. But then you might wonder, I'll just wrap up in a few seconds and then Adipusha Prabhu can enlighten us further. So then one question we might have is, then why didn't Krishna take birth directly from Yashoda? Since Yashoda was such an exalted position. But he took birth, he gave the privilege of taking birth. Of course, our Acharya has explained that actually Krishna did appear from the womb of Yashoda, because the Garbhadan, what's that? The Vasudeva Prabhu would know, the umbilical cord cutting ceremony. Prabhu, do you know what that ceremony is? The Jata Karma. Yeah. Anyway, he's busy. So there is a ceremony that you do, which you cut the umbilical cord. So that's the Acharya has explained that ceremony was performed after Krishna reached Vrindavan. So the Acharya explained that Krishna is actually eternally the son of Yashoda and born from. But anyway, to keep it simple, let's say that Krishna was born from the womb of Devaki, and then why is it that Krishna didn't take birth from Yashoda directly? Now you see, the nature of Yashoda's love is pure devotion remains dauntless in the face of opulence. It remains undiminished in the face of all opulences. Whereas if your bhakti, if your love is not fully pure, it shrinks. It shrinks in the face of opulence. And why is that? Why does pure love shrink? Not pure love, your adulterated love, why does that shrink in the face of all opulence? Because you see, the nature of love is selfless. Pure love is purely selfless. And opulence, the nature of opulence is, if you see opulence, there's a desire to enjoy that opulence. Why does someone get carried away with the awe and reverence? Why is it so impressive for some not so perfect faith traditions to view God from the position of awe and reverence? They see the topmost God should be in awe and reverence. Why is that it's so captivating for certain not so perfect faith traditions? Because it's so impressive to see the divine from the perspective of awe and reverence. It has this impressive quality. We see this divine, which is full of opulences. It's really impressive. That is because deep down inside, we have this desire to enjoy. Bhogashwarya prasaktanam. So opulence is impressive to you as long as you desire to enjoy it. For a pure bhakta, it's useless. Like a mother of God, to see God as like as all powerful, that's useless. Like, to give a more practical example, let's say there is like a sports star or a celebrity. You might see a celebrity and you might be starstruck. But for the mother of that celebrity, she could care less about how big of a star he or she is. For her, that's just their son or daughter. They don't care whether they're a big star or not. For the mother or father of that celebrity, they don't care about their stature. So like that, pure love doesn't care about these opulence. So when opulence shows, Mother Yashoda's love remains completely dauntless and completely unaffected. That is the exalted position of Yashoda. So that is what differentiates Yashoda from Devaki. But then the question still remains that why didn't Krishna directly take birth from Yashoda? Now you see, the nature of pure love is it's free from any kind of external designations. In fact, the freedom from designation makes it even more stronger, that love even more stronger. In one of the purports in CC, Prabhupada explains, I forget which chapter, but Prabhupada defines pure love as, pure love is that which, even, I'm paraphrasing, of course, I don't remember the exact, but Prabhupada says, pure love is that where even if you have all the reasons to leave that person, you still stick with that person and you serve selflessly. That is pure love. And you see, for that, the removal of external designations is really important. Because Yashoda and all the residents of Vrindavan, their love for Krishna is free from any kind of formalities. If there's formality, then you perform your activities of love. And of course, you can say, okay, yeah, I did it because there's a formality. You do some service for your spouse because, yeah, now I'm in a holy matrimony of whatever that is, But when you still perform for example, every parent would like to serve their child because there's a connection of the body. But when you serve a whole of humanity, that's free from bodily connection. But of course, as we know, above serving humanity is serving the Supreme, and serving the Supreme, all of humanity is covered. So I'll conclude with this point that Yashoda and all the residents of Vrindavan, their love was completely free from any formalities or any labels, designations. Same with Radharani. You might wonder, why wasn't Radharani married to Krishna? That would have ruined it. That would have not highlighted Radharani's pure, exalted love, completely selfless love. It is not bound by any desire for any reciprocation, any desire for any selfish motive. So that is the difference between the love of Vrindavan residents and the love of Dwarkavasis or other. They also have love, but it's mixed with awe and reverence. So that is the difference between opulence. When you worship Krishna in awe and reverence, you're impressed by awe and reverence. Because deep down inside, we find it impressive. But the residents of Vrindavan, for them, it's absolutely useless. They could care less. In fact, one moment Krishna shows his universe, the universal form in his mouth, in his belly, as some acharyas say, that Krishna actually showed his universal form in his belly, and through his belly, Mother Yashoda could see all of that. And she wasn't the least bit impressed. She was actually disturbed by that. So Mother Yashoda could care the least. They don't care about Krishna being God. For them, it's their Lala. It's their little Krishna, their darling Krishna. In fact, all of these opulence is simply a disturbance for Krishna. And one final point I'll conclude with is in the purport of text 46, Prabhupada mentions that actually Yashoda's position is higher than that of Nanda Maharaj. So I want to sort of end with this one point, which can be a little, hopefully some thought-provoking topic, is the position of women in the spiritual world is actually higher than that of men. Material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. We might see some societies, communities where there's a patriarchal system, or men are supposedly the head of the family and whatever. But in the spiritual world, you see all the exalted positions are actually occupied by the women. Men are also occupying positions of rendering service to Krishna. But in the purport, Prabhupada explains Yashoda was more fortunate than Nanda Maharaj. So we can see the exalted position of Yashoda, how the Yashoda was constantly, she was never separated from Krishna. She's always serving. So with this, I'd like to sort of now see if there's any comments, questions, any thoughts from our either online or in-person audience and online audience. Yeah, one. What's your name?
Eric.
Eric.
Yeah. So my question is that since Yashoda,
I can also repeat if you. Yeah, sure.
Hi. So my question is that since Yashoda was a pure, I guess, pure devotion, pure love for Krishna, that's why she was able to be the parent. Are there people today that can reach that type of level, or women today that can reach that type of level of devotion where they really aren't attached to Krishna and they're not wowed by him, so to speak, in a way that they rather just give that love? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So if I can sort of repeat the question for my understanding, that Yashoda's love was pure, and can we in our times achieve that position? Yes and no, because the position of Yashoda is that spot's taken. Yashoda, nobody can get to be Nanda and Yashoda. But as far as pure love, can we attain that pure love? Yes, that's the whole definition. That's the whole meaning of the word Raganuga. Raganuga Bhakti is exactly that, is following in the footsteps of Mother Yashoda. So yes, that can be achieved. One cannot be Mother Yashoda or Nanda, but that level of pure devotion can be achieved. And that's what Prabhupada is explaining. There's sadhana siddha, or perfected beings who've attained perfection, not because they were eternally perfect, but through their practice and devotion. So yes, the answer is yes, one can attain that position of pure love. It's possible. Yeah.
What was that word?
Sadhana siddha. Any other comments? Or I see a lot of chat. Yeah, Evan Prabhu.
That the love of, you used the word that to describe Kevala Prem, you translated that, it seemed, as pure love.
Kaivalya.
Yes, but then it seemed like Mahatma Gyan Prem, you translated it as impure love, which didn't make sense to me exactly. I was wanted to clarify that, because Prema, as I understand it, is translated by Prabhupada as pure love.
Yeah.
But it's mixed with a different type of mood. It's not that it's impure. That's just my understanding.
Right.
But is it that it's impure, or that it's just mixed with a different mood?
So wonderful. Thank you for that question. So Evan Prabhu's question is, I said, devotion that's mixed with awe and reverence is considered impure, right? Yes, it's not impure, meaning we don't want to say that the mood of Dwarkavasis or other, if there's mixed with, or even Vaikuntavasis, if they're sort of viewing Krishna in awe and reverence, that's not necessarily impure. But in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we see that Gopakumar is going from one realm to another, and he's not fully satisfied. And until he finally reaches the Goloka realm, he's fully satisfied because it's completely free from any kind of awe and reverence. So yeah, maybe impure is not the word, but still our Acharya explained there's a gradation. Even Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it's explained there's different gradations of bhakti. So there's different gradations, and even in CC, there's a verse where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, it makes the exact same point. He says, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is quoting Krishna, saying that Krishna is saying that devotion with awe and reverence doesn't satisfy me as much as me being chastised by my beloved. So Krishna himself is saying that for me, that awe and reverence, that is also one mood, like you were saying, that is a rasa. It doesn't satisfy me as much as someone who's intimate chastises me. So, and from a mundane perspective, respecting someone is better than chastising someone. Materially speaking, respecting someone is better than chastising someone. But spiritual life, everything is opposite, or rather material world, everything is opposite of the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world, when you're intimate with pure devotional rasa, that is more pleasing to Krishna. So however you want to use semantics or wordplay, but the point is, what pleases Krishna the most is that intimacy, which is devoid of any jnana karmari and avratam. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. And
I just wanted to clarify that that Queen Kunti is not a pure devotee. I just wanted to make that distinction.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I never said that they're not pure devotees, but I'm saying that what pleases Krishna most is this Vrindavan rasa, the mood of Vrindavan Vasis pleases Krishna the most. Any other thoughts, comments, questions you have? If not, I can read. Adipusha Prabhu, you wanted to share something. We also have Krishna Daya Prabhu next.
Krishna Daya.
Are you sure? Okay, so Krishna Daya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. It's a little bit continuation or extension of Ivan Prabhu's point. You said opulence, I don't know, maybe paraphrase. There is an enjoyment tendency of the opulence, so that's why it's less. But Lord's beauty is also in opulence, it's like Bhagavan, so there are a lot of opulences. So Lord's beauty is also in opulence. And even in Madhuri Rasa or Vatsalya Rasa, the devotees enjoy Lord's things. Of course, service is more. And the last point you said is seva. What pleases Lord is the most important thing. But that does not mean devotees get some enjoyment. And then the enjoyment tendency is there even in Madhuri Rasa also. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. So because the comments are coming like opulence is useless. So it's like, of course, you have clarified, but it's Aishwarya Rasa, it's like devotees may not be satisfied. So it means again, point is coming, satisfaction of devotees. I am not satisfied unless Mother Yashoda chastises me. That's the point you mentioned. So here also devotees saying, I am not satisfied. So there is nothing wrong in we seeking satisfaction in interacting with Krishna. Of course, Krishna's pleasure is the highest. But, in the name, we aiming for higher rasas, the remaining rasas, the secondary rasas. So it's like a little bit confused.
Yeah, so you made a good point, but it's the other way. I think you mentioned the enjoying tendency is there. See, it's the other way. Enjoyment is there, but the enjoying tendency is not there. That is the difference. So we're not talking about enjoyment. So that's the same point that was raised when Rupa Goswami composed that verse. Anya Vilashita Sunyam No, not that verse. I'm thinking of one verse where Rupa Goswami says, Anya Abhilashita. Anya Abhilashita Sunyam, that's the one. Anya Abhilashita Sunyam, meaning free from the desire. So when Vallabhacharya read that verse, he said, what's wrong? He said the same thing as you did. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with desire to attain liberation? And then Rupa Goswami didn't correct him. But then Jiva Goswami, when he heard that, he got really upset. And then he spoke to Vallabhacharya. He said, what he means is the desire for liberation is not, liberation itself is there. Liberation is not a bad thing. But the desire for liberation is a bad thing. So enjoyment is there. I'm not saying enjoying is bad. Enjoyment is there, but the desire, enjoying tendency is not there. Mother Yashoda is not feeding Krishna thinking, if I feed him, I'll get enjoyment. She's feeding selflessly, and through that feeding, she gets enjoyment 1,000 times more. Same with Radharani. When she introduces other devotees to Krishna, she gets 1,000 times more enjoyment. So we are not saying enjoyment is bad, but the desire, the tendency for enjoyment is bad. I hope that makes sense.
In the Aishwarya Rasa, the desire for enjoyment is there. That's what you're saying.
So rather, let me sort of clarify more. So I'm not necessarily saying that anyone who's in Vaikuntha or in the Aishwarya Rasa, they have the tendency for enjoyment. But what I'm saying is generally when we see the Supreme in terms of awe and reverence, that seems higher than pure devotion, at least in our conditioned state. Because awe and reverence, you see Supreme as all-powerful. And why is all-powerful really attractive? Why is that? What, would you worship a God who's not powerful? Would anybody worship? Where is your love there then? Would you worship the Supreme if he could do nothing for you? So the reason why we are engaging in the beginning stages of bhakti is because God is powerful, all-powerful. And then you transcend that stage as we don't care if the Supreme is all-powerful or not. So that is the point that I'm trying to make. So I'm not in any way saying that Aishwarya mixed devotion is impure or bad, or I'm not using any of those strong terms. But the point is pure bhakti is pure bhakti. It's free from anya vilashita, jnana karmadi anavritam. is free from any speculative tendencies, any tinge of awe and reverence. We have Bhima Das and Adi Purusha Prabhu. Okay, Bhima Prabhu, please enlighten us. We'd love to hear.
Hadi Bo Prabhu. Love your classes. You leave no stone unturned. For those of us who are, can you hear me by the way, or am I broken
Yes,
up?
Prabhu. We can hear you.
Okay, very quickly because I'm not too quick. Simple for the simple, complicated for the complicated. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bhima Prabhu. Anyway, so nice to see you and all the devotees. Thank you so much. Vedraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. We'll have some darshan now for you.